there are definitely trans fetishization elements and also like child sexuality elements of the story that may not be what you want to hear. So if you don't want to hear about that, I guess I would leave the room for 10 minutes and then come back. I won't be offended, even though I am actively enraged at everyone in the world. I promise. Hi. All right, then. First bad decision. I was in Portland. I was walking around staring blankly at all the middle-class excesses of capitalism, vegan cheese shops, and boutique whiskeys, bored as hell. So I called this trick. I made a firm decision to not see him after dialing his number the previous night and having the following interchange. And so when I talk to Trix on the phone, I have this really faggy voice, and so I always try to sound like this. Hey man, this is Sid. Sid? Yeah, you wanted to get together while I was in Portland? We were texting. You saw my ad over my boy. What did I want to see you for? Sorry, wrong number. I look at my phone, I look at the text. Because I'm not always smart, I text again. Sorry, seem to have caught you at a bad time. Let me know if you still want to meet up. I receive back, sure I do. I'm looking forward to our booking. Give me a call. I call again. Hey, Sid calling again. It's the same voice. Sid, so yeah, like what were the plans that we had? The same ones we were talking about via text? Could you remind me of those? Although I have made a lifelong habit of pushing past every danger sign that has ever arisen in sex work, it occurs to me that something is not going well. I hang up. I don't text. I tell my best friend something really sketchy just happened, but he is zeroed in on the TV in front of us. He places his head on my lap and looks up at me. Pick me, he said, pressing my fingers against his face. I file this as one of several possible encounters with law enforcement that it's best to pretend has never happened. The next day, the same number texts me. Why didn't I hear from you? What the fuck? I tell him, call me. He calls and it's a different voice. I mentioned the calls last night and he says he doesn't know what I'm talking about but takes it in stride. Jealous boyfriend? I'm still sketched out but make plans to meet him at a train stop so he can drive me to his house, which lays off the public transportation route. Now there's this thing where like a lot of people would just like take a taxi there, but I'm really cheap, so whenever chicks are like, let me pick you up and drive you for 45 minutes, I'm like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. The tram goes through Portland's streets till they are no longer busy with food trucks and bars, arriving in an area of long fences and houses painted fresh, deep reds and teals. The last tram stop is at a mortuary, his luxury black car in the parking lot of a bank next to it. They are so close that when I look over to where he stands waving, I mistake him for a funeral driver. Grant is in his 50s, white, another face in the sea of gay men who I meet as an escort. His energy is forceful. There's an edge that is hard to connect to. I wonder if it's meth or something less temporary. He's very interested in me as a transgender, at the topics of transgenders in general. He's very connected to Gay Inc. He knows that my people have a problem with it. He says, I don't think many people know how much affirmative action we do in hiring transgender persons. If you look at our staff, many of our higher-ups are from your community. I look out the window as the car goes around the hills, carefully tended lawns rolling out in front of those big white houses. He drives into the carport of a two-story. The garage door opens to a room that reminds me of my Aunt Sydney, who wasn't my real aunt, but rather my grandmother's lesbian friend. I lived with her off and on while I was a child after my mom died. Her apartment was large with rooms that smelled of mothballs, unlike my grandma's apartment where I slept in a cot next to the closet. Sydney's had furniture that felt like it was from another century. I remember laying on the emerald carpet underneath the stained wood table, 6 matching carved chairs with silk cushions. I would pretend to be a princess trapped in another kingdom's castle, waiting for the doors to open for me to be brutalized by an unknown adversary. Grant's house is decorated like this, but without the carpet being tread into a matted down surface. Chandeliers sparkle light off gold accents of cabinets. In front of me is another boy, younger than me, brown skin, slim and white pants, with an expensive haircut. I move to shake his hand. Grant says, "That's Josue. Don't worry, he won't be joining us." Our hands touch and I slightly roll my eyes in an attempted camaraderie during my smile, but he looks at me blankly. Upstairs, Grant talks about how he's been taking care of Josue. He's been letting him live downstairs for 4 months after his parents kicked him out of the home. Nasty business. They aren't dating, he's just a benefactor. I look at the deep brown silk sheets of his bed. "Do you want a bathrobe?" he asks me. He hands me one while he heads to the bathroom. I take off my clothes and they sit awkwardly in a pile next to my backpack filled with packets of lube, condoms, bits of weed, and colored pencils. The carpet feels so soft on my feet, and the robe gently brushes against my flesh. I try to position my limbs organically and suggestively on the high, high bed. Does he want me to be butcher femme? Is he interested in a bro with a pussy or the ultimate step in Queenie faggothood? He emerges, and I pull his body to mine in a tight kiss. Sometimes tricks are the best sex I ever have. My brain is able to circumvent any of the insecurity that usually sullies my hookups with an almost religious admonishment to do a good job, which in turn provides me with the energy to hoover dick whilst tweaking nipples wrist deep in ass. Something which on my days off I just don't possess the fucks or the finesse to work out the mechanics of. With Grant, I can tell that this isn't going to be a natural 10-star review. First, he gets really whiny about barebacking, something I admit to doing in the past, but in a quick cost-benefit analysis, decide that this scene is already too much. He switches to a new, more perverse roleplay where I tell him about how dick-hungry I am. It goes like this. "Tell me how you went into the bathroom at school so you could look at dick. How old were you?" Yeah, I was 16 and I would sneak in after science class, hide behind the lockers. Then I would wait till the boys came after soccer practice and watch them masturbate, because that's what boys do in the bathroom. Pretty soon in the dirty talk, my age rolls back to 14 and I'm still a drooling cum slut. There's a certain legitimacy in this. In my diary from that time, there's an entry which reads, "God, what is the fucking matter with me? I was writing in this cute little drawing book and shit, in parentheses. I wrote a story about seeing Kennedy, in italics, naked at a ritual. What is it that makes me so attracted to this guy," who is like a goth, who is like a future trans woman, probably in retrospect. "I love him and he doesn't give a shit for me." There are 2 pictures at the bottom of this diary page. One is a very crude image of him lying naked on top of me, and it says "my dream" on top of it. And then there's a picture of a cape with a price tag on it, and it's his dream in a thought bottle. I don't share this story with Grant or the one about one of the first times I had sex. It was in my car, and midway through, I remembered I still had a tampon in. Pulling it out midway and thanking God for red condoms, it stayed in the detritus of my backseat until another aged and jobless punk rock suitor picked it up weeks later. I grabbed it out of his fist, told him it was a piece of beef jerky, and threw it out the window. Although my brain is full of overwhelming and disturbing narratives of youth sexuality to share, I keep to the secretive trans people in the bathroom trope until his dick delivers. I enthusiastically kiss him, "Good job," and he lays down for a post-coitus discussion. "You know," he says, "Josue has never seen a vagina in his life." Well, that happens. I know where this is going. "You know, you could show him. It would be a real hoot." "Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I don't need to do that." "I'll give you an extra $50 if you show him, just for a second. He won't touch or anything." Because I'm already fairly dissociated, and besides, $50 for a small humiliation with someone I'll never see again kind of seems worth it, I get into the bathrobe again, and he goes to prep his friend. I enter like the host of an extreme game show, about to show the guests which bugs they're about to eat for dinner. "Show him," Grant says, his voice full of glee. I open my bathrobe, and Josue looks at me sheepishly. Wow, okay." We are both having a hard time displaying the kind of childlike innocence our leader has in mind. You look so much like a man, but have a vagina, he says weakly. Yes, I know. That is part of being transgender. Ha. We hug at an angle. Grant looks down. While I get dressed, he asks me about the phone calls. I tell him about the weird voice on the line. Oh, yes, he says. Well, it's very likely that my phone is getting tapped. I start to get excited about the prospect of blackmailing him. In the car with heated seats, as he takes me back, he and his not boyfriend argue about their flight. He and his not boyfriend argue about their flight to Palm Springs this afternoon. I put my hand in my pocket, feeling the bills fold against each other, and thank the goddess for the patronage of transgender people like myself by Gay Incorporated. Thank you very much.